Hello, and welcome to this edition of People in Transition. I'm your host, Bob Gerst. I've been hiring and mentoring executives, frontline employees, and job seekers for nearly 40 years through a host of transitions, some difficult, but most very good. This experience has given me a bird's eye view on a variety of trends, economies, industry disruptors, and transitions, big and small. It also brought me into contact with the thought leaders and decision makers you need to meet. Imagine knowing exactly what to do next and how to know it's time to make your big job change. We all know transitions can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. And it's even fun when you have actionable strategies and proven tactics to achieve the future you want. We'll share with you the tools and skills that can take your dreams to your next great job. So if change is on your horizon, you won't want to miss this discussion. Also, please subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. Welcome to the People in Transition podcast. Today, we have Craig Meriwether, a distinguished graduate of the Hypnotherapy Academy of America, where he earned his certification as a medical support clinical hypnotherapist. For over 12 years, Craig has been helping people heal from early childhood trauma, helping cancer patients with pain control, veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, students with test anxiety, entrepreneurs with confidence issues, athletes achieve peak performance, people looking to improve and build confidence in their job search, and anyone who may be dealing with overwhelm, fear, and anxiety. Hypnotherapy is one of the fastest growing fields dedicated to facilitating and promoting human change, improvement, and achievement, and empowering individuals to reach their full potential. In this episode, we will delve into the positive effects of hypnotherapy, particularly for those who fear networking, interviewing, and navigating the various aspects of finding the next job. Join us as we explore how hypnotherapy can help you overcome these challenges and achieve success. Good afternoon, Craig. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Bob, I really appreciate the invitation to be on your show. I've been looking forward to this and don't know what we're going to say and how the conversation is going to go, but I'm excited to be here and I'm ready to get going.
Craig, I think that this is a unique topic that we haven't covered in my prior episodes. So let's start off with first, give us kind of the layman's definition of what is hypnotherapy and how does it work to alleviate anxiety that a candidate may be experiencing?
Sure. The big difference between, say, hypnotherapy and talk therapy is that hypnotherapy works exclusively with the subconscious mind. Whether you understand what the issue is that you're dealing with, the hurt, the pain, the anxiety, the anger, the subconscious mind is holding on to something for your protection to keep you safe. That's its main job, is for survival. Your subconscious mind is not against you. It's for your safety, your survival, your protection. And it may have installed some instructions on how to keep you safe that may be not very resourceful, not very resilient to you. Maybe these are instructions you installed when you were a child. And maybe they did keep you safe. Maybe keeping yourself small and hidden was the best thing you could have done when you were a child. But that's not going to work when you're out in the world as an adult. You're running a business. You're an entrepreneur. But those instructions may still be in there and they just haven't been changed. And you're allowed to change them. And that's what hypnotherapy is great at, helping you heal from past hurt and pain and to achieve your best life by installing new instructions. The way it does this is through deep relaxation and rest. It doesn't even have to be deep relaxation and rest, but just by resting and relaxing the body, you can quiet down that conscious mind. And the reason why it works so well with anxiety is because the foundation is rest and relaxation. You turn off the stress response, the sympathetic nervous system, and you turn on the relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's where healing happens.
And Craig, tell us how effective hypnotherapy is in treating networking and interviewing anxiety, maybe compared to some other treatments or other avenues that someone might use.
Sure. The research is out there. I know there's a lot of baggage around the word hypnosis and hypnotherapy due to what people see on TV and movies. There's the comedy shows you see in Las Vegas or Atlantic City or comedy clubs around the United States. And they're funny, they're amusing, but that's not what we do in clinical hypnotherapy. It's quite a different aspect of mind. The people who go to those shows, who get up on stage, volunteer. They want to be up there. They're extroverts. They're exhibitionists. They want to have a good time and have a funny video to show their friends and put on Instagram. But in terms of this working, it works because, honestly, you want it to work. And I know that may sound a little cheeky, but the real healing happens because you want to heal. I can't, as a hypnotherapist, make anybody do anything they don't want to do. That's why, say, smoking cessation work isn't 100% guarantee. I can't make anybody quit smoking if they don't want to quit smoking. If somebody comes into the office and say, well, I'm here to quit smoking because my spouse doesn't want me smoking anymore, hates the smell, hates the expense, but I don't want to smoke. I love smoking. They're not going to quit. I can't make them. I can't snap my finger 3 times and make them quit. So a big part of the healing work happens just by wanting to heal and wanting to get better. Great example of this is irritable bowel syndrome. I had the unfortunateness of dealing with that. The issue around it, the main issue, is stress, anxiety, and hypervigilance. Even the drug companies admit that. And so why hypnotherapy is not only great with anxiety, but it can actually help heal the body is because you're turning off the stress response. You're turning off that fight or flight stress response. All that energy that was going to armor you for the fight that's coming at you, even real or imagined, can now go back to your digestive system. It can go back to your immune system. You know, when you're in that fight or flight stress response, your brain is producing that adrenaline, that cortisol. It's moving 300% more blood to the big muscles of your arms to fight, 300% more blood to your legs to escape. Again, great if your natural disaster is happening. You're out in the wilderness camping and wild animals coming at you. It's great when that's happening, a fight out in the street. But if you're in business, you got to meet with the investors, you're hiring, you're firing, you know, the day-to-dayness of being an entrepreneur, being a business person, or, you know, in your career, that's not a great time to be flipping on the stress response to armor yourself. The problem is, as I just mentioned, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. That's why a nightmare can seem so scary. If you've had the experience of having a nightmare, Bob, or I'm sure your listeners maybe have, or at least know somebody who has, it doesn't matter how ridiculous, how stupid the dream is. You know, a gigantic cheeseburger and his 2 hot dog friends are chasing you down the street, throwing coconuts at you. It's ridiculous. It's never going to happen. But even while in deep sleep, your mind is looking for danger and it senses being attacked by this gigantic hamburger throwing coconuts. And so it'll turn on the stress response, even in deep sleep. 300% more blood moving to big muscles to fight or escape, brain starting to create adrenaline and cortisol. And so we actually use that to our advantage in therapeutic hypnosis. Your mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And through thought alone, you can change your physiology just like in a nightmare. And even if the visualization techniques for healing that we may use in hypnotherapy may seem a little ridiculous. What do you mean standing under a gigantic waterfall while blue healing energy is washing away the stress not only on the outside, but on the inside? That's not possible. It doesn't matter whether it's possible or not. Your mind can't tell the difference and will literally change your physiology, just like having that nightmare. Only we're going to do the 180 of that and turn off the stress response. And so all that energy that was using to protect you, to armor you, can go back to your digestive system. The digestive system will heal itself. And that's maybe the important thing to let people know about this work. And hypnotherapy, I don't fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. You're going to fix yourself. Because who better to know what the problem is than you? And who better to know what the solution is than you? And that's the power of this work. The power is not in me. The power is not in hypnotherapy. The power is in your subconscious mind to do this healing work.
Craig, are there any other misconceptions or misunderstandings about hypnotherapy and its use in managing anxiety?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconceptions, again, are just like the comedy shows, the Las Vegas shows, or maybe what people see in the movies. Again, especially with the comedy shows, people, well, I don't want to go to a hypnotherapist. They're going to make me sing like Elvis Presley or whatever, dance like Michael Jackson. I saw a show last week. I saw a video on YouTube. And again, please understand that those shows, one, yes, they're for entertainment, but every single person at that show bought a ticket to the show. And they sat down in their seat. They were excited to go to the show and have a fun night out. And then the hypnotist comes out, hey, everybody, glad you're here. And who wants to get up on stage and have a great time and have a fun show? And a bunch of people raised their hands. The hypnotist isn't picking the people who aren't raising their hands. He's looking for the people who are super excited to be up there because those are going to be the best candidates to have a fun show. This guy is here to entertain people. People paid good money to be entertained, so he needs to have a good show. He's going to bring people up who want to be there. And then they sit and they go up on stage, they sit in their chairs, and he goes down the line, what's your name? Where are you from? And you're here to have a good time. And do you want to go on hypnosis and have a great show? Yes. These people say yes 7 times before this guy makes them, sing like Elvis Presley or dance like Michael Jackson and pretend they're on a roller coaster or whatever the gag is. And so it's this idea that you can make somebody doing something they don't want to do. That's not the way it works. That's the movies. That's how you get Jason Bourne to assassinate the prime minister, is to hypnotize him. And that's not the way it works. Really briefly, in fact, the word hypnosis comes from Greek mythology and the Greek god Hypnos, who is the Greek god of sleep, because back in the 1850s, there was a doctor in England, and back in the 1850s, you need surgery, you need your leg amputated, you're biting down on a stick, or it's a blow to the head to knock you unconscious. Well, in 1850, Dr. James Barr, as a surgeon, started using a deep, deep, deep trance state to put people so far under it looked like they're in a coma. And then he could do surgery, he could do amputations and cut people open and take out tumors and sew them up and deal with war injuries and things like that. Certainly he didn't invent the trance state. Certainly thousands upon thousands and thousands of years ago, the Egyptians and over in India and South America and Aboriginals of Australia are using trance in their healing and spiritual work thousands upon thousands of years ago. But Dr. James Barr started using it, needing a word to describe this kind of coma-like sleep state to his colleagues to write about it. He decided to name it hypnosis after the Greek god of sleep. And since that, 170 years ago, this state of mind, this altered state of consciousness, grew to encompass all sorts of different states of mind. And basically what we're talking about is brainwave state. The famous ones, beta, alpha, theta, delta, that we learned about in school. Beta is what you and I are in, Bob, having this conversation, having a discussion and listening to each other. And we're firing about 18 cycles per second, this wave of neurons firing in our brain, about 18 cycles per second. I'm back in high school math class. Let's use this example. And I'm paying attention to the teacher, but it's so boring for me. And then I just start staring out the window, daydreaming about the weekend and how much fun it's going to be. Now I've moved inward. I've quieted down the external world. I've moved inward. I now altered my state of consciousness to move into the alpha brainwave state, firing about 12 cycles per second. My eyes are getting heavy. I'm starting to kind of droop my head. I'm falling asleep. I've altered my state of consciousness again. I've now moved into the theta brainwave state. Not really awake, but not really asleep either. And then the teacher sees me and says, hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board? And I jolt awake. I'm looking at the board. All the kids are staring at me. I'm feeling a little bit embarrassed. I don't know how to do the problem. I wasn't listening. And now I'm firing about 25 cycles per second because now I'm in the stress response. I have to go at the board and do this problem. I don't know what he was talking about. I wasn't listening. And so just in a period of 5, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, I've altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times. And that's what we do all day long, whether you're in a boring meeting or you're waiting for an appointment or you're driving, stuck in rush hour traffic, or you're driving home and you arrive in your driveway. You can't remember the last 5 blocks because you're thinking about that PowerPoint presentation you got to give tomorrow, or got people coming over on the weekend. We alter our states of consciousness multiple times during the day. In fact, watching TV puts you in the alpha brainwave state. And so all we need to do in this work of therapeutic hypnosis, just quiet down the mind, quiet down the body, and alter your state of consciousness, maybe down to the alpha brainwave state, and then you can access this healing work of your subconscious mind.
Craig, I'd like to shift gears a little bit, talk specifically about networking and anxiety that may entail. The term networking for some people strikes fear, way even maybe past anxiety. Yeah. So what have you seen are some of the common symptoms of networking anxiety, and how do they typically manifest themselves, and how can hypnotherapy help and deal with that?
Yeah, there's lots of different physical ailments that people may notice if they're feeling anxious about doing a networking event, or even, like meeting some investors or doing a big meeting at work. And, it could be all the way from feeling nauseous to sweaty palms, maybe slight headache, or get that fuzzy thinking, that tunnel vision. And the reason why is because your body and mind think you're in danger. And It's just a learned response. Somewhere along the line, maybe there's some embarrassment, some humiliation, maybe some failure. Maybe there's a networking event that didn't go well. And now there's this trigger of, well, a couple networking events ago, a couple of years ago, didn't go very well, and I don't want to fail again. And there's this fear of failure. There's a fear of being judged. And that's a hard hit to our ego when we don't do well. Doesn't mean you're not going to do well again, but again, the subconscious mind is there to protect you and to keep you safe. And that, as we may have experienced in the past, wasn't safe. Maybe you didn't feel safe there because you were feeling humiliated or embarrassed or frustrated or disappointed because you couldn't get to say the right things at the right time. And knowing you have to go again, you may have a heightened sense of vigilance to keep yourself safe. Certainly was a learned response. You weren't born being afraid of networking events. You weren't born being afraid of meeting investors. You weren't born of doing job interviews to hire people or having a hard job of firing people. You weren't born knowing how to do that. So this was a learned response. And one of the issues of mind is that what is strongest within your mind is what you do over and over again. And of course, we know this if we're practicing the piano or the guitar or learning martial arts or to dance or a foreign language or a little kid learning to walk. What you do over and over again, you get better at. What you practice, you get better at. But what if you're practicing anxiety? What if you're practicing fear? What if you're practicing that in a specific arena, like a networking event? Maybe you're fine with the meeting of your management team and the 4 or 5 of you, 6 of you can get together and it's a great meeting. But knowing you have to go later on in the evening to a networking event where you don't know anybody, that creates a lot of fear and anxiety. And again, it's an unknown and your mind is trying to protect you. It wants to keep you safe. And the warning signals it's sending you is through the feeling of anxiety, our quote unquote negative feelings of anxiety, anger, fear, worry, overwhelm. These are warnings that there's danger in your external environment. Just like someone pulls a fire alarm in a building, the sirens go off, the strobe lights go off, warning everybody that there's danger and you need to get to safety. Well, we also have warning signals in our body, but it's the warning in the form of a feeling, the warning of anxiety. And so the issue becomes if you're practicing that over and over and over again, you're going to get really good at being anxious. You're going to get really good at feeling that fear or that anger or whatever the situation is. And so not only is there healing work maybe to be done about a past hurt, if there was an embarrassment or there's some trauma in the past, something that caused terror or fear that needs to be healed. But then there's also the practice of what do you want instead? Do you want confidence? You want happiness? You want peace? You can have it. But there does come some practice along with it. Just because you get rid of the anxiety doesn't all of a sudden mean your brain is wired for confidence and happiness. But you can wire your brain for pretty much anything. And you can wire your brain for confidence, peace, and happiness. But like anything, it does take some practice.
Craig, can technology or social media be leveraged somehow to help ease that anxiety that you might be experiencing when you're networking?
Yeah, there's social media apps, your phone, bit of a double-edged sword. Of course, it's causing a lot of the anxiety people are feeling because it's 24/7. You're always on. I feel so extraordinarily bad for the kids in school nowadays. It used to be bullies just went to work from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now bullies can have access 24/7 through social media. But it's the same with work. It's the same for being an entrepreneur. We're always working 7 days a week anyway, but now it just seems like through social media, through the apps, and through the constant information we're getting, we're constantly putting out fires. But there are ways of utilizing this technology. There's certainly wonderful apps out there to help calm the nervous system, to help you regulate your nervous system, and just monitoring in all those smart watches people wear, the Fitbits and the whatnot, the Apple Watches. They can regulate, give you some biofeedback in terms of heart rate and things like that. And that can help you regulate your nervous system when your Fitbit or your smartwatch or whatever you're using is letting you know that, hey, you're getting into a bit of a danger zone. You're going from the green zone and yellow into the orange and possibly red zone. Then you become more aware, more mindful of your body by using this technology. And you go, oh, I need to do some sort of technique to calm my nervous system down. So technology can be great. There's a lot of apps, meditative apps. I mean, there's probably hundreds of them at the moment that can help you in just maybe a handful of minutes calm your nervous system down. So it's that weird double-edged sword. So much pressure is being applied through social media because you have to be on LinkedIn. You have to be on Facebook. You have to be on Instagram. Now there's TikTok videos got to make, which you might as well put on YouTube, which, okay, how are you going to get it to be on Instagram? Because the TikTok video can be 10 minutes. Facebook can be as long as you want, but Instagram can only be 90 seconds. It can be overwhelming. And if you use it to your advantage, they can be very useful if you're finding the right apps or you're finding the right benefits to you in terms of helping regulate and become mindful of your nervous system and where you're at.
Craig, I want to switch over to talking about interviewing a little bit. What have you seen as some of the triggers of interviewing anxiety, and how might they affect the candidate's performance?
Yeah, again, a lot of this is coming down to fear of failure, fear of being judged, especially in that situation, a job interview, or maybe giving a presentation, giving a keynote speech, or even maybe the presentation at the big meeting at work. There's this fear of failure that people may get because it hurts. You don't want to fail. You don't want to get an F on that report back in school. And maybe that 6th grade history report didn't go very well. And the kids kind of laughed at you because kids can, be mean and unaware at times. And they thought it was funny stumbling around and tripping over your words and photos were upside down or whatever. And they thought it was hilarious and they laughed. And that really hurt because it felt like an attack on you. And it became unsafe to be in front of people. Or maybe the teacher was disappointed or was very angry at you. And now you have this authority figure when you were a small child in the form of a teacher getting angry at you. And you can take that with you because if you're doing a job interview, that's somewhat of an authority figure looking at you and pretty much judging you. What does your resume say? What does your CV say? What have you done? What are your experiences? Here, answer these questions about what is your greatest weakness. It can be very intense. And if you've had these experiences where maybe things haven't gone so well, you can start experiencing that anxiety, or maybe even in the middle of the job interview, you start feeling yourself sweating or your stomach getting upset. And it can maybe even be the difference between getting the job and not getting the job. If your mind starts going blank, start getting that tunnel vision, all because your subconscious mind thinks you're in danger, thinks you're being attacked, not physically attacked, but maybe you're feeling emotionally attacked or mentally attacked because the interviewer's a little aggressive, and your body starts to armor itself. And in needing to do that, it may be drawing blood supply away from other vital organs into the big muscles of your arms. If you're not breathing well, the brain takes 20% of the oxygen you breathe in. So if you start shallow breathing during the stress response, now you're sending less fuel to your brain for rational, calm thinking. So it just ends up kind of looping on itself and spiraling on itself. And again, the more you practice, the better you get at it. And if you keep going to job interview after job interview or giving presentation after presentation, feeling this way and linking this feeling state to right before the job interview or during the job interview or during the presentation, then you're just going to get better and better at feeling anxious during the job interview.
Craig, can the interviewee use positive self-talk or visualization techniques or other techniques to help them deal with the anxiety and stress during the interview?
Absolutely. There's a lot of great techniques you can use. A lot of them work well if you practice beforehand. And that's a lot of this issue is don't wait until you're in the middle of a panic attack or an anxiety attack. Don't wait until you're in the middle of, maybe if you're in a profession, if your career requires you to take a certification exam, a licensing exam, don't wait until you're in the middle of the exam to try, how am I going to calm my nervous system down? Again, what you practice, you get better at. So there are certain techniques, certain visualization exercises even. One great one is while you're sitting, you can do this very discreetly. While you're sitting in a chair, you can feel your feet on the floor and just notice. And of course, if you're driving a car or if you're watching the kids around the swimming pool, don't do this. Just listen to the instructions and maybe clock where we are in the interview and come back to this. But if you're in a safe place and want to follow along with this, you can just feel your feet on the floor if you're sitting in a desk chair or an appropriate chair with your feet on the floor, and notice where you may be feeling any sort of anxiety. There's a place in your body where you feel it, where it originates, where you hold on to it. Some people it's in their chest or their heart, or some people it's in their gut, or some people the back of the neck or their throat or their head or the arms or the legs. Wherever you've noticed that stress, that tension, and just what color is it? Is it big? Is it small? Does it take on a shape? Some people notice their anxiety is a spiky red ball, or their fear is a black cloud or something like that. What does it look like? What does it feel like? 0 to 10. How do you feel right now? 0 being most peaceful, 10 being the most panicked you've ever felt, the most anxious you ever felt, most afraid you've ever felt? Well, maybe it's a 6, maybe it's a 7, maybe it's an 8, maybe it's lower, maybe it's higher. Just notice where you are. And then feeling your feet on the bottom of the floor, just pretend using your imagination, just pretend that some vacuum tubes or vacuum hoses coming up from the center of the earth. It attaches to your bottom of your feet and just sucks out all that anxiety. Whatever it looks like, whatever it feels like, however you're sensing it. Maybe it's a big dark cloud. Maybe it's a spiky red ball. Maybe it's just orange goop. Whatever it feels like. Maybe it's just the sensation. Maybe it's just a feeling. Just vacuum it all out to the center of the earth. And then once that's happened, just surround yourself in a cozy, warm cocoon of an amazing feeling. Maybe you sense a happiness and joy and peace as a golden white light, or maybe as a blue cooling energy. Again, just pretend that you're doing that and surround yourself with this, and then breathe it in. Breathe it into your lungs. Your lungs, it's going to move it into your bloodstream. Your heart's going to move this cooling energy throughout your whole body. And there's this one little simple exercise you can do in about 5 minutes. I don't know why I wasn't watching the clock, but I think that just in terms of explaining it took about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes to explain. And these are simple little things. If you don't have a half an hour, you don't have 45 minutes, that's one great little exercise you could do to, not literally, but through your imagination, just pretend that you're vacuuming out. Again, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, and will change your physiology to match what you're thinking and feeling, just like that nightmare. And doesn't matter how crazy that nightmare is. Cheeseburger, chasing down the street, throwing coconuts, it'll change your physiology to turn on the stress response. So let's use that to our advantage. Are you literally vacuuming out the stress and anxiety down the center of the earth? No, probably not. But you can pretend that you are, and your mind and your body will follow suit. And this is the power that you have. And yeah, it may seem a little ridiculous, may seem a little silly, but when you're in the throes of anxiety, and maybe you're taking that professional exam to get certified or licensed, or you're about to walk into a job interview, or whatever the situation, you're about to walk into that meeting with new investors, feel your feet on the floor and just notice where you are in terms of your feeling state and do something about it. It's great to do it when it's just a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Don't wait until it's a 9 to try and do something about it. If that's where you are, then yeah, definitely do something about it. But it's easier to deal with if a 2 or 3. Don't ignore it. When it's a 2 or 3, that's when it's really easy to deal with. And that's when it starts training your body to like, oh, it's a 2 or 3. Let's get rid of it now. Don't wait until it's a 9, 9.5, a 10 till you do something about it. Get it when it's a low number. And then even if that's the method you want to use, just pretend you're vacuuming it out the bottom of your feet.
Craig, are there any books or other resources that you would recommend to our listeners that could help them deal with the stress and the anxiety of the job search?
Yeah, there's 2 things I want to recommend. One is my own course, ACE Any Test, which you can find at aceanytest.com. It's something that I developed for test anxiety, and not necessarily just high school students taking the SAT. If you're a university student, if you're getting your master's degree, if you're taking the bar exam, another professional exam, you're a 65-year-old starting a retirement career as a real estate agent, haven't taken a test in 40 years. It's for that, but it's also, what if you are having a job interview coming up? You are giving a presentation or a speech, or maybe you're a musician or an actor doing an audition. These are all forms of tests. And it's an online course that teaches research-proven techniques to turn off the stress response and to boost confidence. So aceanytest.com, but also I highly recommend the books of Dr. Daniel Amen, A-M-E-N, Dr. Daniel Amen. Many people probably know who he is. He's usually the guy on the news who they go to when needing to talk about the brain. Extraordinary neuroscientist, but he must be in his 70s or maybe getting close to 80 by now. And he has, I'm guessing, at least 25 books out there about the brain. A lot of them dealing with anxiety, depression, ADHD, memory issues. So, of course, there's aceanytest.com, but also just go on wherever you get your books. Your library probably has a bunch of them. Your local bookstore and even used bookstore probably have a bunch. Of course, any online store, bookstore is going to have them. So just Dr. Daniel Amen, start going through his material. It's extraordinary stuff.
Craig, we have gone through so much information today, and it is really, I know, going to help candidates as they're going through the recruiting process. If you have them remember just 3 things to help them find that next great job easier and faster and less stressful, what would those 3 things be?
Absolutely. I would say First and foremost, what is strongest in your mind is what you do over and over again. You can use this to your advantage, or it could also be a detriment to you. If you're practicing anxiety, fear, and anger, you're going to get better at it. So practice confidence, practice peace of mind and body, even just 5 minutes a day. And, even if you just have 5 minutes, we just did that process of vacuuming out. Put yourself in the right mind state before you walk into that job interview, before you give that speech, that presentation in front of the board of directors. Look, right now when we're recording this, it happens to be during the Olympics. I guarantee you every single athlete, whether an Olympic athlete or a professional athlete, musician, actor, they are putting themselves in state before they walk out to their event, whether it's a solo event, a group event like swimming or running. They put themselves in state. You do the same. You're going to walk into that job interview. You're going to go out and do that presentation. You're going to meet with the investors. You got to meet with a new candidate about being a senior manager. Put yourself in state in terms of the person that you need to be to make that a successful interview, to make that a successful presentation. And I'd say the third thing is, again, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Use that to your advantage instead of your detriment. And you will notice in a short amount of time, this doesn't take months and years, this can take weeks, you will notice yourself starting to shift and start creating your best life ever. It will happen. You are that powerful.
Craig, every time that you and I have talked, I know that you have peace and understanding and calmness to your life. And I know that you helped bring that to others that are listening this today. I want to thank you for sharing your insights, your experiences. And I know that there's going to be job seekers that are going to be much more comfortable and much more confident because of your advice. Thank you, Craig.
Oh, thank you, Bob. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you inviting me onto the show.
Thank you for listening. We're working in unprecedented times. The purpose of these episodes is to give you the support and critical tools to adjust with the changing marketplace. I'll continue to introduce you to guests who have successfully survived their own obstacle course and can share useful information. If today's message was helpful to you, please share it on your social media. Your review and rating helps get this to more people. Also, if you have questions or podcast ideas for future conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Change is constant. The more prepared you are for it, the better and easier the change will occur. Thank you again. This is your host, Bob Gerst. See you at our next episode.